Okay, in this chapter unit of your book, you're going to be talking about simple interest, compound interest, budgeting, finance, things like that. So first off, if you need a little review of like converting between percents and decimals and all of that, make sure to just check your book. If you need any help, let me know and I can make a video going through more of that stuff again. You could just watch my old videos, whatever. But we're going to be going back and forth between percents and decimals and fractions, so just make sure you're still clear on that. But the idea is, when we start talking about interest, say you buy a car, you get a car loan, but then since you get that loan, there'll be interest attached to that loan, so you end up paying the bank more than you got the loan for. My wife and I just bought a house. We're getting a mortgage. There's going to be interest involved with that. So we understand there's this idea of interest for a lot of the things that we buy. And there's what's called simple interest, compound interest. There's actually other types of interest, but we're going to focus mainly on those two. And all things being equal, simple interest is not all that challenging in that the formula is pretty straightforward. The formula for simple interest is just I equals PRT. I stands for interest, P stands for principal, R stands for rate, and T stands for time. With the one rule that time always has to be in years when you plug it in the formula. Meaning, if I get a loan for 6 months, my time is not 6, my time is actually a half, or 6/12, 6 months out of 12 months. If I get a loan for 9 months, time is 9 out of 12. Time has to be given in years. But once you know the formula, it's pretty straightforward, meaning, let's see. I get a car loan for $12,000 at 3.2% for 5 years. How much interest do I pay? Well, then all I do is plug into the formula. And I will point out, like I said right here at the start, we're going to be looking at different types of interest in this unit. And you have to be able to look at the problem and determine, is this simple interest or compound interest? Again, there's other types too that we probably won't look at. The kind of simple way of looking at this, if the problem says simple interest, it's simple interest. If it doesn't, if it just says interest, assume it's simple interest. If it was another type of interest, like compound interest, it would have to say compound interest or interest compounded. So if it just says interest, you can assume it's a simple interest rate. But now I just plug in. I is equal to P principal, that's the amount borrowed, and this should actually definitely be the other principal. Okay, $12,000 times the rate. The rate is the interest rate, 3.2%, but we know when we plug percents into problems, they have to be decimals. So shift 2 places, that's 0.032. T is time in years, and this is a 5-year loan. Now, just hit enter on your calculator. So let's see, 12,000 times 0.032 times 5, and I get 1920. And I'm done. And if you think about it, it's a $12,000 loan, slightly less than $2,000 in interest over 5 years. Yeah, that seems plausible. But all things being equal, again, this formula is pretty straightforward. I equals PRT. Plug in PR and T, hit enter on your calculator, and you're done. But the way we actually use this is kind of sometimes more involved from a real world perspective. Meaning, say for this one, well, sure, I'm going to pay $1,920 in interest. But all things being equal, if I'm getting a loan, I don't really care about the interest that I pay, or at least not just the interest that I pay. I care about how much the whole loan costs. But if the loan is for $12,000 and I know there's $1,920 in interest, well, then I can just add those together. And now, how much do I actually pay back on the loan? $13,920. $12,000 in principal, $1,920 in interest. So sometimes you'll be told to find the amount of interest for something. Other times you'll be told what's the total amount of the loan, the total cost of the loan. You just take the principal and add on the interest that you find. There is actually a formula for total amount. It is amount equals principal plus interest, because that's how you get the total amount. But you can write this different ways. Amount is equal to principal plus interest, but interest is PRT, so sometimes the formula will be written that way. Algebraically, sometimes we factor out the P and we get P times 1 plus RT. When you see compound interest later on, that makes sense. But, well, you have those formulas, and again, I don't actually know which one your instructor in 143 will mention, or how many of them your book and Connect and all that mentions. But ultimately, you need this formula for simple interest, because that's how you calculate things. This one, or any one of these three, as long as you understand what's going on, it's not really necessary, meaning I figured out the total amount here without using the formula, because it makes sense. Take the principal, add on the interest. Principal plus interest. So don't get confused if you see these formulas. They're just the logical way to solve the problem. So, to kind of do a few examples, you're going to have several labs this week. So first we'll say this one is percent review and simple interest. And again, there's a few problems for converting percents to decimals and fractions and all that stuff. So I'm not going to go through them here, but if you want to go through them just to remind yourself, you can. But if we flip over to example 3, Jenny borrows $700 at 7.5% simple interest for 2 years. Using the simple interest formula, how much interest would she pay in 2 years? Well, I equals P, which is 700, times R, which is 0.075, make sure you write it as a decimal, times T, time in years, which is 2. Clear. Now we get 700 times 0.075 times 2, and we get 105. Again, it's nice and straightforward. But then, for the second half of this example 3, what is the total amount she would pay back? Well, that's her loan, that's her interest. So what's her total amount? The loan plus the interest, which is 805. Which is, again, what those formulas say, but you can kind of solve it without the formulas. Okay, example 4. If Blake invests $4,725 in an account with an annual simple interest rate of 2.57% for 3 years, after 1 month, Blake wants to know how much interest he has earned. What value will you use for T to represent 1 month? I know T has to be time in years, so what's time? What's 1 month in years? That's a T and an equal sign, all in one. It's 1 out of 12, 1 month out of 12. So this is going to be my time for 1 month, 1/12. How much interest has he earned after 1 month? Well, now, interest is principal, 47.25, times rate, 0.0257, times time, which is 1/12. Now, once again, calculator button pushing, 47.25 times 0.0257 divided by 12. 10.12 when I round it. And there we go. I've earned $10.12 in interest after 1 month. So again, it's a simple formula, I equals PRT, but make sure you read the problems carefully so you kind of know the different things it's asking. Interest after 1 month, total amount of the loan. Let's see. There are other problems on here that you're going to get to work through. I'll stop there. Again, if you want to actually see it, the ones that start with practice right here, that's where you're going to start doing that. I'm also going to give you this, but this is just more practice with word problems on these simple interest things. So really quickly, there's my marker. Example 1. Jason's car payment is $424 per month. His loan is a 5-year loan. What is the total amount that Jason will pay? Well, here we're not given an interest rate or anything like that, but we can kind of figure this out a different way. It's a 5-year loan, and I'm making monthly payments. So in 5 years, how many payments do I make? Well, that's 5 years. There's 12 months per year. So that's 60 months. Which means I make 60 payments, and I make 60 payments of $424 each. So now, what's the total amount that I pay? 424 times 60, which is $25,440 total. So now, that's the total amount of money that I end up paying back using my monthly payments. The second part here says the price of the car was $22,000. How much finance charge is Jason paying? Finance charge is just interest. But now, if the total amount that I pay back is $25,440 and the price was $22,000, the difference between them has to be interest. So I can just subtract these. And I think I get $3,440, and that's interest. And again, the point here is, you all understand at this point, you have formulas, simple interest formula, amount formula if you want. You use them to solve problems, but you also have to be able to interpret problems and solve them and, we'll say, get an answer entirely based off of what information you're given in a problem. Can you still solve an interest problem even if you're not given the interest rate? Well, sure, we did here. I can take my monthly payment, multiply by the number of monthly payments that I make, figure out the total amount of the loan, then subtract off the principal, and the difference has to be the interest. There's actually only one other example on here, but since we did example 1, on this one, I'm going to let you do example 2 about Cynthia and her sofa. Again, just to give you practice working with some applications. I'm also going to make some more videos later this week. Your instructor in 143 has not posted what you're going to do starting on Wednesday after your exam. So I'm not sure how far she's going to go this week. So later in the week, I'm going to post some more videos going over compound interest on the off chance she covers simple and compound this week to make sure you're prepared.